Good afternoon. My name is Paul Mitchell. I'm President and CEO of Energy Systems Network, and today we are live at the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We are here welcoming you to the Autonomous Technology Commercialization CES Spotlight Session. We are talking with thought leaders who have experience in industry, academia, government, and even a race car driver to talk about the future of autonomous vehicles and to bring some perspective to the role that the Indy Autonomous Challenge will play in accelerating our path to realizing that future. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Indy Autonomous Challenge, we're going to show a short video that will help you learn more.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway was established over 110 years ago to test new technologies.
And now self-driving cars are the next grand challenge in automotive technology. But we're still a ways away from having the autonomous vehicle that can drive anywhere and everywhere. We knew that there was a major leap that had to be taken. What better way to do that than a high-speed race at the most famous racetrack in the world?
The Indy Autonomous Challenge, it's unlike any other challenge.
30 teams from around the world, 20 laps, $1 million grand prize.
Our cars here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway touch 240 miles an hour.
The minute that car is on the track, it has to control itself entirely.
It's racing, but in a futuristic way.
We've known for years that prize competitions can drive innovation.
Competitions are great places to do this because once you get competitive, you most likely will stop sleeping to make sure you win.
The DARPA Grand Challenge led to tremendous advancements in the industry. Sebastian Thrun, who won that DARPA Grand Challenge, said, you've got to create some type of autonomous vehicle competition that would bring back the excitement of the DARPA Grand Challenge. The real challenge is the software. How do you take the information that's coming in from these sensors, compute it, and make decisions that are typically made by a human? We had more than 30 teams coming from 14 U.S. states and representing 11 countries sign up.
University students looked at this problem with fresh new eyes.
We are certain that the future of our racing is going to involve drivers and cars. But if we can go 240 miles an hour and keep cars from colliding, then surely we can make highway traffic safer.
It's all these universities from around the world with the next generation of the brightest minds, and some of them are going to look back and say it started at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the Indy Autonomous Challenge.
Before we introduce our esteemed panel, anyone who has questions, please email those questions to Diane Murphy. You can find her contact information on the screen behind me. She'll make sure that those questions get to the right people, and we'll try to answer them either today or after this panel presentation. Now, I'd like to introduce our panel. First, here with me in the studio is Dave Roberts, Chief Innovation Officer for the state of Indiana through the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Dave and I have had the opportunity to work closely together, supporting innovation and entrepreneurship, both in terms of small and large businesses, creating public-private partnerships along the way. Joining us virtually, we have a number of panelists. First is Sebastian Thrun. Sebastian is CEO of Kitty Hawk. He's also founder of Udacity, a highly regarded online technology training network. He's an adjunct professor at Stanford University and winner of the 2005 DARPA Grand Challenge. He's also a member of the Indy Autonomous Challenge Advisory Board. His aim is to significantly help society through artificial intelligence technologies, and he's constantly looking for breakthrough projects like the Indy Autonomous Challenge. Next, I'd like to introduce Lynn St James. She is a famed race car driver who quite literally broke the glass ceiling of motorsports. She has 7 Indy 500 starts and was named the 1992 Indianapolis 500 Rookie of the Year. She is the first woman to travel over 200 miles an hour in a race car, and is currently active in mentoring women in business and STEM, serving on the Kettering University Board of Trustees. She is also an active member of NASCAR's Diversity Council and NASCAR's Race Appeals Commission. Next, we have Reilly Brennan. Reilly is the founding general partner of Trucks Venture Capital and a lecturer at Stanford University. He is also a member of the Indy Autonomous Challenge Advisory Board. And last, we have Anthony Salcito, Vice President of Education at Microsoft. Anthony works to help empower educators and inspire students by transforming the way we learn with the support of technology to help build critical skills for the modern global workplace. Our first question is for Sebastian. Sebastian, what is it about prize competitions like the DARPA Grand Challenge and now the Indy Autonomous Challenge that accelerates the pace of technology innovation? And what specific technologies do you think might come out of the Indy Autonomous Challenge?
I can't tell you how excited I am, Paul, about what you're organizing in the Indy Autonomous Challenge. I've been part of the DARPA Grand Challenge, and I can tell you when you put technology development, science, education, and competition into the same box, people stop sleeping and they work really hard, focused on winning. And winning we did back in 2005, and I'm looking forward to students winning this year and making this challenge great. I believe there's an opportunity to build technology to make cars safer for highway driving, as you mentioned in the beginning video. It is correct that I think in the racetrack, humans will always have the upper hand, but the technology developed in this competition will make cars much safer in dynamic environments. If you look at self-driving cars today, most of them crawl along at very slow speeds inside cities. Very few are able to show the handling and performance of a human trained driver in highway driving, and that's where most of the deadly accidents happens. So I can't wait to see the results of this competition and see how it changes society.
Lynn, we just heard from Sebastian about the importance of high-speed automation. You've traveled at speeds of 200 miles per hour in a race car. Tell us, what does it mean to you to see autonomous vehicles on the same racetrack that you've raced in the Indy 500? And specifically, what do you think this means for motorsports? What can it provide that might improve, for example, safety in motorsports?
Well, racing has always been about testing limits and about technology. I remember when I was a factory driver for Ford Motor Company, it was always about the engineers were there to test products, to test certain components, and then often those components went into production cars. So even though for me it was always about, make this car go faster so that I could win a race, I realized that there was really another agenda, and that was really to be able to test components and test, different parts of that race car to be able to transfer it to the technology of street cars. The racing industry is always wide open. The people in the industry are always wide open to find new technology, to find new ways of doing things. I think having students integrated into this now, working on their projects, and I think it's going to really change and open up a lot of the engineers and the experts and the team members and the crew members, and they're going to now really have their eyes opened about what is really available with youth and their ideas and their challenges. So I think this sort of collaboration between, because we're going to be there watching. I mean, even if we're not directly involved, we're going to be there working and watching and be very curious about how this. And of course, Delara is involved, who makes all of the chassis in Indy cars. So there will be a lot of integration, I think, of learning and integration of understanding how to make these cars go faster. And then the human factor. I mean, race car drivers have, over time, we've developed intuitive decision making in milliseconds. It's anticipatory reaction. You can't wait to react. It has to happen almost instinctively at the speeds that we go. And I don't know how the heck they're going to be able to do that. And that's what I'm anxious to see. How can you program a computer in an autonomous vehicle that can have that kind of anticipatory reaction that we have, because you can have all the plans and you can have all the structures and have all the lines and all the walls, and the walls are the only thing that don't move, but you still have to have this sort of intuitive feeling about when to make your move and how to make your move to avoid an accident and to make a pass. And so I see that this, again, integration is going to really be able to hopefully be able to then create software that can have that kind of millisecond anticipatory reaction. And we're all going to wait. I think it's exciting to be able to see something like this, and there's no better place to have it than at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's going to be a very exciting, I think, experience and opportunity for the students and for the racing community.
So we've just talked about how new technology innovations may come out of the Indy Autonomous Challenge, and that is very exciting. But it's one thing to develop new technologies in a challenge. It's another thing to commercialize them and get them into the real world. I want to ask Reilly, what is it going to take to commercialize these technologies? What does that path to commercialization look like? And what is the role for the investment community, for venture capitalists like yourself and others?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. And like Sebastian and Lynn said, I'm just really excited for what the students are going to be able to do. I think an admission by all venture capitalists is that venture capitalists are often not in front of these trends and not in front of these big events. And so one of the magical parts about the grand challenges 10 or 15 years ago is really that it was government and military and a lot of people who came together from the robotics industry first, and the venture capitalists came second. And now, of course, you have a lot of people who are interested in funding these ideas, and I'm one of them at Trucks Venture Capital. What's happened in the last 10 years or so of this quote-unquote industry is a lot of focus has been on things related to the robo-taxi idea. So could you simply, pick somebody up and take them from point A to point B? And one of the fascinating components of the last few years has been a lot of those ideas have become more and more structured. So, could you apply robotics to mining and construction and trucking and all these things? And I think one of the fascinating parts about this challenge is we're seeing another really interesting application that's sorely needed, which is high-speed planning and things like this. And I don't think, by the way, to sort of piggyback on something Lynn said, I don't think this challenge has been put together because we want to replace race car drivers. There's always going to be a need for a Scott Dixon and a J.R. Hildebrand and a Takuma Sato at the Indy 500. What this is really meant to capture is the spirit that motorsport has always been a wonderful proving ground for innovation. Oddly enough, from my point of view, over the last 20 or 30 years in automotive development, you've seen a lot of the new things around AV have really been done at the level of startups and not at the racetrack. And so one of the things that I love about this challenge is it says, let's bring the innovation back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Let's put great innovators from motorsport together with some of these new ideas and see what happens. Now, as an investor, I'll be there in the paddock and looking for ideas and people. And some of the people and some of the ideas that come out of this challenge, I have no doubt will become really big companies one day.
Thanks, Reilly. I want to ask Dave a question. We've got to understand, what is the role of government, not necessarily just the federal government, but specifically state governments where you come from, in helping foster innovation generally, and specifically what's being done here in Indiana to help realize this autonomous future?
Yeah, so thanks, Paul. I'm sure many people would say the best job for government is to stay out of the way. But here in Indiana, we take a slightly different approach on that. We really break it down into three things. We recognize, we engage, and we amplify. So in recognition, we look at the mobility segment and we see an outsized portion of our economy. We're the second largest GDP in the automotive sector. We have the most pass-through interstates, earning the nickname Crossroads of America. And you can see how both of those play into autonomous technology very quickly. We also, as has been said many times here, are motorsports capital, second to none. We literally are in a town called Speedway, Indiana. And we also look at the mobility segment and we see a sector that's much, much different than it has been in the past, and one that's quickly changing and will be dramatically different just 5 years from now, if not sooner. So the second big step in engagement is that we look around and first of all decide to engage. We decide to compete with other states that are vying for relevance in a sector like this that's changing very, very quickly. And that engagement takes the form typically in Indiana of industry-led public-private partnerships. We engage academia and at the right time our defense partners to look at how these sectors are changing and creating new solutions every day. We look at activating capital. We have great partners through folks like Elevate Ventures and Next Level Fund here in Indiana. And we also look at the ancillary technologies, the enabling technologies. So a good example in the autonomous segment is 5G. So you can find out more about what the state's doing by going to wherespeedmatters.com in that application segment. But finally, we amplify. We lean into those things that are happening that really propel us in terms of thought leadership. And the Indy Autonomous Challenge is a great example of where we were thrilled to play a role activating the entire effort. And as other states looked around and looked at test capabilities and so forth, we realized we had the best and the original test bed for technology already in place. So we would love to have you all come and help be a part of history on October the 23rd, and we look forward to that day.
Thanks, Dave. Anthony, realizing this autonomous future is going to take an army of talented engineers, software designers, even business and marketing professionals. What can we do to attract more young people into the fields of STEM technology? And what is the role for industry and companies like Microsoft in helping foster that future talent pool that's so important for our industry to realize its goals?
Well, thanks, Paul. Indeed, Microsoft is actually very excited about this partnership and being part of the Indy Autonomous Challenge because the companies that we work with every day demand and need this type of talent to fuel innovation in their own businesses, not only from automotive suppliers, but businesses of all time. And as we move towards automation, the dynamics of technology skills will be incredibly important and needed across the world. But what I like about this challenge, it's going to be about the leadership skills, the collaboration skills, the human skills that come forward that is absolutely need for businesses around the world. As we think about STEM, and Sebastian was a great commenter on this, getting students motivated by what they're going to do with technology is absolutely the way in which we inspire students as well as innovate. Students are often teaching technology for technology's sake, but having a mission and a goal is going to drive problem solving, creativity, and the skills needed to apply technology in the right way. We're hoping this is an inspiration, and the students participating in the Indy Autonomous Challenge will leave a generation of students behind them who think about technology differently and apply it practically to create automation across a wide variety of industries. It's going to be exciting to see, and I'm sure the students are going to do an amazing job with the technology, and Microsoft is super happy to be part of it.
Thanks, Anthony. We know that in today's world, particularly with the global pandemic that we're all dealing with, virtual learning and virtual collaboration is of critical importance. We found that in the Indy Autonomous Challenge with our teams having to utilize simulation tools developed by ANSYS and leveraging cloud computing by Microsoft. But I have a question a follow-up question for Sebastian. You founded Udacity and you've trained tens of thousands of people in automated technologies virtually through your online learning platform. Given this increased reliance on virtual tools to support collaboration, what do you see as the future for Udacity? And can we see more of these prize competitions reaching even more and more people globally and internationally through these virtual tools than, say, perhaps what was available in 2005 when you competed in the DARPA Grand Challenge?
Paul, I wish we had Udacity in 2005. For those of you who don't know it, it's actually a learning company that teaches individuals, teaches corporations, teaches even countries like Egypt and Dubai and others tech skills. We have a curriculum on self-driving cars where you can learn about how to program a self-driving car, even at speed. And it's been used by more people, I think, in the self-driving car trade than any other source for learning. It's called the Khan Academy for professional tech learning. I believe there is a possibility for us to really use this moment to go global and democratize education and really get top-notch education to everybody. Microsoft is doing it, so many others are doing it, and give everybody a chance. I think the competition is the same thing. It's giving every student a chance in the level the playing field. You don't have to be accepted to MIT or Stanford to win the competition. You can do it wherever you are. And now for education, the same thing is happening. The pandemic is accelerating things. The pandemic is accelerating so many aspects of human life, from electronic payments to telemedicine, of course, online education. I see this as a good thing for us because it'll eventually democratize access to all these things around the world.
Thanks, Sebastian. Lynn, I've got a follow-up question for you. You've been a tireless advocate for the role of women in STEM technology and STEM fields. We are excited to have several women leading the teams, university teams that are participating in the Indy Autonomous Challenge. But more needs to be done. We need more women involved in STEM. We need more women involved in the Indy Autonomous Challenge. What can government, academia, and even industry do to increase opportunities for women in STEM?
Well, as a race car driver, I've always said, you know, the car doesn't know the difference, doesn't know whether a man or a woman's driving it. So I found the sport to be great in that manner, that it really is really, I call it a genderless sport. But I think to advance it, and I did do some research, and I think it's about 11% of the participants in the Indy Autonomous Challenge are females, and really that's about ties well with about the number of women that are engineers, they're studying engineering in universities. So, you know, it's really parallels that. But I have a very basic philosophy that I think sometimes we tend to overthink things, but women need to be invited. It's just in our nature. Men just show up. I mean, sometimes it's really simple. I mean, I just think sometimes we ought to just invite women to be more, to know that they are welcome, to know that they are valued, and to know that they can succeed and really excel at something. And I just think sometimes that basic beginning point is really the stopping point. You know, then you end up with some cultural issues, and I found that I actually worked on a project a number of years ago with General Motors and the Department of Engineers, or the Department of Energy, on a program, a university competition program in advanced automotive technology. And women were there on the teams, but then the guys would tend to give them like logistics and some of that basic, the things that they expected women to exceed at. And so I created an award for the top female engineer in each team. And over the course of about 3 years, there were women now leading the team. So I was really pleased to see already in the Indy Autonomous Challenge that women are some of the leaders at some of the universities. So, but to make a change, so I think, you know, my recommendation to any entity who's trying to get more women is to just invite more women. It doesn't have to be women only, but make them feel welcome, make them understand that this is an environment and a platform where they can succeed. And I think you might be surprised at how many women would show up.
Thanks, Lynn. I've got another question for Reilly. Give us your perspective on the size of the market opportunity that autonomous technology represents. Obviously, we hear a lot about what the role may be in robo-taxis, as you said earlier, but think beyond that. What does that autonomous future look like? And when can we expect to start to see it? I mean, there's been billions of dollars invested in this industry already. We know that it takes technology a while to commercialize, but when will the average person start to really see autonomous technology on the roads?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. One of the fascinating parts about being involved in transportation investing is it's one of the few industries that you can measure with a T, as in trillions. So you have to go to healthcare, or food, or maybe defense to find something with a comparable size. And it's simply because what in our lives hasn't been impacted by transportation. And so I think about what transportation does for us, but also what it does to us. And all those components are really being remade through software and robotics. And the earliest example that people have been working on, as I mentioned, has been robotaxi. But if you even look at things like construction or agriculture, just the movement of those vehicles alone is worthy of a few $100 billion. And so we're really talking about a component idea that touches all parts of life. And that's why investors are really excited about it. It's also, by the way, why I think that transportation is what I would call a complete industry, which is to say, when one part of the industry is down, another part could be up. So, for example, when new car sales are down, used car values go up, and all those yin and yang elements of the transportation world are really fascinating to study. I think from our perspective at Trucks, one of the parts about automation that maybe people didn't expect years ago is that some of these very specific tasks can be put on the road here today. So a good example would be agriculture, where the act of moving a farm tractor 2 to 3 miles per hour is actually not that difficult, and it's got some great aspects of it, like you're not on public roads, you're not carrying passengers, you're probably not entering a lot of cross traffic with bicycles and pedestrians. And so some of that stuff is happening today, actually. And then for passenger vehicles, there's a lot of technology that might not be fully autonomous. It might be things like lane keeping assist and other things that, to be candid, are really trickling down to really inexpensive cars right now that you can buy for pretty normal prices. And so although people think about autonomy as this kind of, horizon moment that's 20 or 30 years away, there's a lot of technology that people are working on that is here in 2021.
We've got time for maybe one more question. Anthony, I want to talk about the global nature of this competition. The Indy Autonomous Challenge has teams from 11 different countries, we think soon to be 12 different countries, representing 4 continents. With the global reach that your technology has, specifically the role that Microsoft's Azure Cloud has played in allowing our teams to participate and collaborate virtually through our simulation rounds. Talk a little bit about Microsoft's approach to reaching talent around the world, and how does a competition like this accelerate our ability to bring people together to support innovation and learning?
One of the things that we have to recognize is that the talent is global. Students from around the world have talents and capabilities that we have to unleash and give them an opportunity. We work with Azure and projects to get students interested in STEM, starting as early as elementary students getting interested about breaking boundaries and envisioning what's possible with Minecraft, and then building skills that align to leverage tools like LinkedIn to get into the workplace. But what we learned throughout is getting a foundation that motivates students, that they can come together as teams, collaborate, and really push their expectations further is critical. We're working with countries around the world who are driven by the similar challenges. Automotive manufacturers in every country are looking to embrace autonomous driving. Students are looking to apply their talents in new ways. And technology is actually a conduit for this, but it's not the only piece. We need students to actually challenge themselves, build an entrepreneurial mindset, embrace a growth mindset to...
Thanks, Anthony. I want to thank all of our panelists today. Again, Sebastian Thrun, Lynn St James, Reilly Brennan, Anthony Salcito, and Dave Roberts. Hope to see all of you here on October 23rd, 2021 for the Indy Autonomous Challenge at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Thank you.